Hey guys, welcome to the South Suburban Humane Society YouTube channel. My name is Haley and I'm the behavior coordinator. This is a part 2 to my dog intro tips video. This one has some clips from a really cool assessment that I did on a dog the other day. It's got a lot of really good examples because some of her body language was a little confusing, but I'd like to kind of explain and walk through how I figured out that she was actually extremely friendly with other dogs. So for clarity's sake, I'm going to go over the dogs that I have in the videos. The husky is named Bandit, and he is extremely social and very tolerant. He's got really good manners with other dogs, and I like to use him for pretty much any of my new dogs that I'm testing currently. The tan bobtailed shepherdy mix dog is named Ben. He's very much a puppy. I can't remember off the top of my head how old he is, but everything about his energy and his play and his kind of lack of manners is very puppy-like. But he's still very social, and he does like other dogs. He just has a very particular play style and kind of set of manners that he goes by. And then the brown and white bully mix is Snickers, and that is the dog that I am testing in the video. In the initial greeting through the fence, Snickers was actually pretty vocal and actually kind of obnoxious, so I wasn't entirely sure that her behavior was that she wanted to be friendly or not. But the more I looked at the situation and saw that she was giving lots of play bows and that the other two dogs in the yard were not bothered by her vocalness or any of her other behavior, they were still attempting to interact and play with her through the fence. So I decided to go ahead and go with it. But this is what it initially looked like through the fence before they were able to actually meet actually face to face. Due to Snickers' reactiveness and because I know the other two dogs in the yard really well, I was able to modify things to kind of assess them a little bit differently. I truly wasn't sure what her reaction was going to be once I let her in the yard, but I didn't want to add any tension to the situation to her by holding onto the leash. But I also knew that the other two dogs in the yard would kind of crowd her a little bit, but that they also would be okay being on leash. So I had a staff member hold each dog while I let Snickers into the yard. And I wanted to see what her reaction would be. Some dogs are gonna run straight towards another dog and kind of start a fight. But if you watch the next clip, you can see that she actually ran in and was just ready to play. Once all three dogs were loose, Snickers was actually kind of overwhelmed, but she was still interested in playing. She was still showing play bows and giving other signals that she wanted to play. She really had no issues with Bandit. Like I said, he's got really good manners, so the issue was never really with him. However, Ben's energy level and how pushy he is was really getting on her nerves. So normally I would wait for her to give a solid correction, but I decided to pull Ben out of the action and hold him on the leash so that Snickers could get a little more comfortable around Bandit. But she kept coming back to Ben and trying to play, so I eventually ended up letting them figure it out themselves. This clip was taken pretty early on, and you can see that Snickers is giving a play bow, but also is still pretty overwhelmed. After this clip is when we separated Ben and let Bandit and Snickers interact a little bit. In this next clip, Snickers starts to join in with Ben and Bandit when they start running around, but Ben gets a little too pushy. So Snickers gives him a really good correction, and you can see her pause, and then she kind of just moves on with the situation. It's really good. The next couple of clips are a few harder to read moments from Snickers. There is a really good combination of corrections and her also soliciting play from Ben. So it could get a little complicated, but this is when I really started to get more comfortable with the idea of letting them work it out themselves and not feeling like I needed to jump in as much, because she was obviously warming up to the situation, but still very clearly and reasonably communicating her boundaries. In this particular clip, you can actually see that Snickers is sort of annoying Ben a little bit. She's trying to maintain control over the situation without totally ending it. So you can see that she's still trying to get him to play even when he is minding his own business. Then I have a few pictures from when they worked it out and they ended up playing. Turns out that a bunch of chasing and playing tag was a really good compromise for all three dogs. And they played for quite a long time like this without us having to step in at all. So later that day, I needed to assess a dog that was in foster. Some other normally dog social dogs had a few negative reactions to her. So we wanted to test her at the shelter so I could get my eyes actually on the situation. It sounded to me, from what I was told, that she was friendly. We had introduced her to dogs before and it went well. However, it seemed that maybe she was just a little bit more obnoxious and pushy, kind of like Ben. So later that day, I did introduce her to Ben and they got along really well. They played wonderfully and they did a lot of wrestling. But then I also wanted to add Snickers so I could see how this new dog would accept corrections. And they actually all played very successfully and had a lot of fun. Ben and the new dog wrestled a lot and they chased each other around the yard, and Snickers actually kind of hung around on the outside edges of the action, but still was involved and chasing and running around with them and still having fun, even though she wasn't playing the exact same way that the other dogs were. But she also had the interactions with Ben earlier, so she knew how to communicate with him and he knew where her boundaries were as well. So everything went really well after that. And sometimes the corrections, especially Snickers, she gives some pretty scary looking corrections, but it's very obvious that she isn't doing any damage, isn't looking to do any damage, and really just wants to make herself feel more comfortable in the situation. And she did a really good job. She never did anything out of line or overreacted. She always gave her corrections and then she was ready to move on and move away from it. Some dogs don't do as well. They will react kind of ridiculously, in my opinion. Some dogs will overreact or continue to give corrections even though the other dog already backed off, and Snickers never did that, so it's really important. And if anything, she was overly tolerant of him and could have very reasonably given him some harsher corrections earlier on. I never managed to get any on video, but she did give him a few really good nips on his shoulder and his neck to kind of get the point across to him, but she had to actually end up being pretty irritated with him before she did that. However, that worked a lot more effectively than any of us trying to manage his behavior and kind of trying to distract him or pull him away. Ultimately, the thing that got the point across to him that his behavior was not okay was the corrections that Snickers was giving him. So you can never underestimate how valuable a well-socialized, tolerant dog can be, because more than anything, I just let her school Ben and kind of just backed her up when she needed it. I hope you guys found this video helpful and that it put some people at ease surrounding letting dogs communicate and figure things out themselves. It doesn't always go this well, so I do plan on uploading a video soon on what to do, how to safely break up dog fights if it does happen. But in the meantime, I hope everything is going well for you guys and that all your dogs are getting along. Thanks for watching.